Alright, so I'm going to start by saying thank you. I really appreciate what you're doing, taking your time to sit here and let me do this. My first question is, I figured I'd start young. I'd ask, what did you want to be?
Well, you're a young buck.
Yes, I am.
So we're starting young.
Exactly. So I figured I'd ask, what did you want to be when you were younger? Did you want to go into law? Did you want to go into cigars? What was it?
You know, that's interesting, man. When I was younger, my goal was to graduate.
Yeah?
Yeah, I didn't have any vision as a kid at all. I had no vision whatsoever. What I notice now these days is that a lot of the guys in the cigar industry who I meet, young guys like yourself, and girls too, who have a passion for cigars, I think that they learn a lot about business and about how to be creative and do branding and stuff through the cigar business, through the cigar industry. Mm-hmm. You work in a store, you love cigars. I always see you blogging, I always see you twittering. That's how we became friends.
Exactly.
We became friends
through social media.
Yeah, through social media, but the word is organically.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happened to me at a later age. You know, I really started a little bit later in terms of where I wanted to go, because like we were discussing before, you know, I started smoking cigars before I went to law school. I graduated Brooklyn Law School. I graduated 8th in the class from the bottom. So there was only 7 people below me, because all you needed was a 2.0. So I got the 2.078 or something like this. But the point is that, you know, as a kid I had no direction at all, and I was always messing up. But later on, when I started to get into cigars, was just prior to law school, and throughout law school I started ready to do cigar sales and stuff, and I opened my first store at the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much that I had a vision as a kid. I had a vision which really came to me in my early 20s, and I acted on it, you know? Mm-hmm. So that was the beginnings right there.
Okay. Now, is it true that you paid for your college by rolling cigars?
Well, I paid for cigars by rolling through college. You see?
Yeah.
And that's the truth, because what happened was, I went to Brooklyn Law School in 1992, and they gave you student loans, okay, like $32,000. And I used those loans to be able to pay for the business.
Okay.
So the business paid me back for my law school, because I would only go to the first class and to the last class. I did enough, you know, just to get by. I really didn't like it too much after the first year.
Yeah.
I had decided it really wasn't for me, you know. So I stayed in it just because we had started the business.
Okay.
And, you know, right around there, that year, the next year, so it wasn't so much that I paid for college by doing the cigar business. You know what I'm saying? The business is what we funded through my law school loans and through all these people who helped me.
Yeah.
You know, people like John Kelly from Strictly Men and from Tessa. Okay. You know, Chris's father, John Kelly, he gave me $20,000 out of his IRA account. You had people like Thompson Cigar Company give us $100 grand, $50 grand. You had Mark Goldman at House of Oxford start us off with $100,000. So you had, you know, different people who were in the cigar industry. That's why you know how Drew Estate is with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, people who are our generation, I'm older than you. I'm a couple generations later, right? But the generation of me down to you, Drew Estate had an impact on the cigar business. And we had an impact from, we are the rebirth of cigars, right? But when you think about what that means, what is it? It's a trademark that we own? Rebirth of cigars? It's a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's the idea behind it, the concept behind it. What's the idea of rebirth? It's the idea of movement.
Yeah.
Right? So that movement that we created, when you hear the word, oh, the Mecca, have you heard that? Esteli is the Mecca for cigar making. I wrote that shit. You understand what I'm saying? You know, fusing in the old world traditions of the past to the new way of thinking. That's all my stuff, because that was the vision early on with Drew Estate. So now it's our responsibility to help the new guys who are coming out, and you know, a lot of the guys who have already made it. You know, I like to think that there's a little bit of Drew Estate, you know, a little bit of Drew Estate in a good way, and let me tell you, you know, I love where the industry is at right now. I love the classics. You know, the forgetting cigar tastes and stuff like that. Let's just talk about the families. You know, when you think about Padron and you think about the Padron family, not just Orlando. The family. I mean, these guys are first class. They're Fuente. Okay. I mean, there's a number of them, but those two have had a huge impact on me. You know, and especially the Padron family. And you know, you can see that. Hopefully, Drew Estate has had an impact as well to the next round of guys coming down the line. You know. So our roots run deep, and we had a lot of people help us. So it's important that we, as Drew Estate, help other people in the cigar industry. We do a good thing for our employees. We're very paternalistic, but I also look at the industry. I covet the industry. I covet it. I'm always coveting the industry. You know, hamburgers and cheeseburgers and the industry. I'm coveting it all the time because, you know, I owe it something. I owe it to, there's a tradition of cigars. You look at any type of packaging throughout history. You look at the history of the world. You can see the history of the world through cigars and coffee, but even more importantly, cigars. You can see the history of the world, how the world changed. You can see it, it's reflected in packaging, of cigar packaging, and through champagne packaging and wine packaging, and, you know, heavy drinks, you know, liquor. You can see the world change through time, through different periods of time. And I'm not just talking about Art Deco or Art Nouveau. We're already talking 1900s. I'm talking all the way back, way back, way back, way back. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about Kinnikinnick. I'm talking about all the way back to times of Indians and shit. So there's something, I think there's a responsibility. Okay, you know, when you think in life about, you're a young guy, right? You ain't probably made no money yet, all right? But you're gonna. And when you do, you'll say to yourself, I'm gonna give back. When I got some cash, when I have some cash, I'm gonna do something. It may be for the Boys and Girls Club, it may be for the old age home, it might be for something. But it's always important to have goals in your mind, because guess what, when you got a few dollars, you know what you say? Oh, I want more money so I can buy another Aston Martin or another house or another car or another this or that. But we have to always think about helping people, and we always have to think about representing our industry in an ethical, positive way, and be able to continue to promote a business that has been a tradition that has been around a long time. So when I was a little younger, and we started Drew Estate, you know, me and Marvin, we had an ethos, and that ethos was based on organic growth through rebirth. You got to destroy any rebirth, biblical. You have to destroy to rebuild. It's basic, it's fundamental. You have to destroy to rebuild. You can't just rebuild on top of something, right? What are you going to do? You want to rebuild a house, what are you going to do?
You got to destroy.
You got to destroy to rebuild. You got to destroy to rebuild every time. But you don't want to destroy something that's precious. So it's a balance, right? It's the same thing with limited edition cigars. Did you see, am I on this tape? Can you see me on that? So it's the same thing with limited edition cigars. Every time that there's a push towards limited edition cigars, think of it like this, right? What happens to the all traditional stuff?
They're still there.
Of course they're still there, but what happens to what we would consider to be consistency? Every time that we think more about limited, what happens to consistency? It becomes less relevant, right? But at the end of the day, you know what's never going to change, brother? What? Consistent product, consistent companies who are consistent in their tobacco, consistent in their farms, consistent in their supply chains, consistent with their final consumers, that you don't lie to your final consumers. You think about Liga Privada. This for us, you know, one of my favorite cigars in the whole world is Opus X. A well-aged Opus X especially, correct? This is for us like our Opus X in a way, you know? And I'm not saying it's a comparable brand, it's two different worlds. Two totally different worlds. But for us, what is it when people, for many years, they complained they didn't get enough Opus X, right? If I only had more Opus X. But the truth of the story is that they couldn't make more because they were truly limited. It wasn't a limited edition product because it was just limited. It was limited because of consistency. To keep the product consistent. And there's people who do limited editions well, like Pete. He does it classy. He makes limited edition shit special. It's not just limited for marketing purposes. That's okay too. I mean, all of us market our product, but it's really important to have ethics in the cigar industry because it's something that's bigger than me, and bigger than Pepin, bigger than Orlando, and bigger than Fuente, and bigger than this guy, that guy. It's something that's been around and it will be here long after all the dust settles. People will enjoy rolling up twigs together and smoking those twigs, roll them up and smoke them.
Exactly.
People want to enjoy that. It's
bigger
it's
than
a passion.
the name. It's bigger than the names.
It's bigger than anything. So, you know, I always like to say, if I was to go down tomorrow, that I know that, you know, that we did something special that had an effect on a few people. So for me, you know, you talk about where we started and this and that, that's all great. When you start, when you business in your 30s and 40s and 50s, you say, here's the business plan, and here's the exit strategy, and here's this. But when you just start like us, street guys, you know what I'm saying? Roughing it out, it's just sheer imagination, creativity, and mostly, it's willpower.
Yep.
To sustain and to keep fighting when you had no money, when you can't, when you're asking people for $25, $30 so you can get some dinner. Everything in your body says, you know what, I got a law degree. I can go get 100 grand. But when you say no, you know what? You can see a beauty that's further down the road and you will suffer and take that chance. So that's how we came from, like you said, starting younger to now.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of bullshit that happened there along the way. We can chronologize it with Kahlua and Java and this and that. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a matter of willpower. And it's a matter about creating a movement that has, that is it here for, I always say this, right? Is it here for a reason? Was Drew Estate created for a reason? Did it come to be for a reason? Do we make a brand because we need to make, we made a new brand in 4 years. Underground?
Yeah. 4
years since we came out with a new brand.
Yeah.
That's unheard of. you do understand that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's, people come out with 2 and 3 and 4 brands a year.
Exactly.
Unheard of. You know how many brands Drew Estate makes at the factory?
No.
For other people?
For other people?
Yeah, which brands do you know of?
Through Drew Estate?
Yeah.
This is embarrassing, but none.
It's not embarrassing because you're very small. We make the Java, you know that, right?
Well, yes, yes.
Alright, the only one that really meant something to me.
Yeah, the Java is with Rocky Patel.
Yeah, we do the Java
yes.
for Rocky. But the one that really meant something to me was the Nosotros, which was a disaster, unfortunately, because Dion and I are still, you know, great friends. Very, very close friends. And the brand, you know, it hurt me to see the brand go the direction that it did. But that was a clusterfuck. But overall, you know, what's the point? The point is that who the fuck even knows the point? I got my drink on right here.
Time you took aside from this event.
Dude, I appreciate it too, man. I would have stayed as long as you needed. I think you're doing a great job. And I like how you are on Twitter. You're a good-hearted person. I read what you write. And I think that you love the cigar business. So you always can come to JD. And I'll always be here to help you and to be part of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
All right.